Yeah, Homer led the league in tackles with 85. The deep ball for Darius Prince, and Philadelphia's on the board first.
On the draw, this is Bryson Allen. And Allen weaving his way all the way down to the 22.
10-yard line, 5. Mayfield, Dancy, all around. Throw it as far as he can throw it. Jump ball coming. Crazy stuff. Not this time.
And you want to be a wide receiver. You're going to have to take a little bit of a hit like that as Brown got him in that shoulder, but watch. Those are teeth.
Do we have a dentist on staff here?
All right, we're back with yet another AFL interview, and we have head coach James Shiver from the Louisiana Voodoo, a longtime Louisiana native and a man who knows the area well. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing this morning?
Man, thank you for having us. Well, it's a gloomy afternoon here in Louisiana. It looks like it's going to rain today, but thank you guys for having me on.
Absolutely, pleasure's all ours for sure. Definitely happy to be joined by my trusty co-host here, Michael Washington, as well. We were going to have Krish as well, but something came up. So definitely excited to speak with you today about all things Louisiana Voodoo. I know there's a lot to talk about, given that this team is very freshly announced. I believe it was, less than a week ago at this point?
Yeah, last Friday, a week ago Friday. Yeah.
There you go.
Very good press conference, too, man. The mayor did a great job. They had the Visitors Bureau there. It was really awesome.
Absolutely. So, I kind of wanted to jump right into this with, obviously touching on your background a little bit. It seems like you've coached basically every level of football in Louisiana, for that matter. So, how important is football to the state of Louisiana, and how do you expect the fan base there to kind of rally around the Voodoo this season?
Well, I was in Lake Charles in 2003, 4. 2002, and I was coaching the Landsharks for 4 years with Kip Tejada, and our fan base was really, really good. You'd be surprised. Lake Charles is I guess it's more of an oil field town. It's got a lot of plants that make gas, out of oil, and they have a lot of casinos there too. It's almost like, I guess people didn't want it, and then it kind of just like it blew up, and it's a huge as far as the economy goes, it's really a big economy. Then about, I guess, around whenever Hurricane Katrina came through, Hurricane Rita came through 2 weeks later, and it really destroyed Lake Charles. And that's kind of what happened to the minor league market. They had the Ice Pirates, the hockey team, and they had the Landsharks became the Swashbucklers. And once the hurricane hit, it kind of put a damper on Lake Charles. In fact, some of the buildings right across from the Civic Center, when we were at the press conference, they still have plywood in the windows. And that's been since, 2010? Whenever Katrina was. I think it was like 2005 Katrina was, actually. So this is like, then they've had a couple of hurricanes since then that's really done some damage to Lake Charles. And so Lake Charles was like Hurricane Alley for about an 8-year span. And now that it's been good, the hurricanes have kind of gone away. The people are moving back into the Lake Charles area. I think Lake Charles is going to do great as far as attendance. It's going to the mayor was all on board. The Visitors Bureau was on board. And once you get the city on board, it's pretty easy. And I really do. I think that Lake Charles is a great market.
Yeah, you coach high school football down there, right? You said, prior to coming on that you were, your season just wrapped up or whatnot.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you're probably going to be shifting your focus here to more of the AFL side of things and the Voodoo and getting out there in the community. But so far in the week that, the official announcement, but maybe even prior to, depending on how far you came into the process, how have you felt that the response has been through, whether it's been Lake Charles or just surrounding areas for that matter?
Well, the surrounding areas, I did an interview in Lafayette, which is an hour away, earlier in the week, for one of the radio stations. But I've been in every newspaper within an hour and a half span. I'd like to tell you, I must have done 30 interviews of, of all the media that are just within an hour and a half of Lake Charles. Where I coach at is about 45 minutes away. And, it's been a huge thing. All the people, everybody that stops me, man, tell me about the voodoo. Tell me about the voodoo. It's just been huge. And yes, I've been on board for about, I guess around a month now. This has been, being kicked around if I was going to be the coach or not. And then, really it was kind of my decision. And then about 2 weeks ago, I took the job, and then they wanted to announce me at the press conference. And so I've kind of been dropping, hints to all my people, slowly getting my entourage together of everybody I want working with us. Even in a week's time, people have a hard time believing we already have our board up of all of our players. There's pretty much everybody we know we want to sign or have an idea of signing. I have our most of our coaching staff in place. I have an offensive analyst and a defensive analyst, which probably has as much or more knowledge than anyone else in arena football. So it's like I feel pretty positive about our franchise.
100%, Coach. So I wanted to ask, if I understand this correctly, you fully intend to return to St Edmonds to coach high school football in the offseason for the AFL?
So I do. So I've been there 5 years. I'm an alumni. I graduated in 1994. Went on to play college football at UL Lafayette. I'm a Raging Cajun also. And, I had kind of got out of coaching after I left Montgomery, Alabama. I got back into high school coaching for a little while, and I decided that I wanted to be a principal. So I went back and got my master's degree and, started going into administration. And then, my old principal, whenever I was in high school, gives me a call and says, I need you to come do an interview at your alma mater, where it might be interested in you helping us pick a new head coach. And so I'm like, okay. So I go in the interview and I'm like, it wasn't an interview as much as I thought. I was getting on a committee to pick a coach. And as I go back in there, they start asking me questions like I'm interviewing for the job. And I'm like, wait, I thought I was just here to help pick a head coach. And then finally one of them slides a number across the table and he says, with that number, make you quit being a public school administrator and come back into private school. And I looked at it and I said, well, can I start next week? So I came back home and, I like to say whenever your old principal calls you, you're always willing to listen, and he ended up passing away within a year after I took the job. And it's just like, it was like returning home for me. It's where I want to be at. I did the indoor ball thing, for 15 years ago, and I loved it. And it was like God put my life on pause, and now he's giving me an opportunity to do it again. But I don't want to give up where I've gone and where I've, all the stuff that I've done. And I'm going to stay at St. Edmund because I love it there. I love the kids there. Those are like my kids. It's a small 1A school, and you can't ask for a better place to coach at.
Absolutely. So this was kind of a two-part question. I wanted to ask that beforehand to make sure I understood correctly. But obviously, given that you coach a high school football program, you've, I'm sure, developed some relationships with college coaches around the country, as well as across Louisiana. How has that then become a two-way street for you now that you're recruiting for a professional football team?
It's actually pretty amazing. Right now I had the number one running back in Louisiana this season. And everybody's recruiting him. I mean, he's been on everybody's recruiting. He's only a sophomore in high school. So as the coaches would call in, I'd say, hey, you have any kids that graduated in the last few years that might be looking to play some arena football? So they would usually get me in touch with the sports information director, or they would, give me a couple names to drop on. But, it helps me a lot as far as that goes. But it also, our franchise in Louisiana, I want a lot of Louisiana guys. Not that I don't want the best guys. I want the best guys, but you know how many athletes Louisiana produces, within 4 hours, within 3 hours of Lake Charles, you got the University of Houston, you got Rice, you got Lamar, you got McNeese, you got UL Lafayette, you got, you got LSU, you got Louisiana College, which is a Division III school. So if you can't find kids that's graduated from there that's gone pro in the last few years, then you're not doing a good job looking. And so, we've already signed a bunch of guys that are, former Raging Cajuns. We're on the phone with 2 or 3 former McNeese players. Nicholls State, as a kid that we're trying to sign right now. Actually, has 2 guys we're trying to sign right now. So, I want a Louisiana flavor. You guys probably know our defensive analyst is Damon Mason that played for the Voodoo years ago, played for Orlando. Damon played college football with me. We're classmates and old teammates. And so, so Damon's first thing he says is, hey, we need a local flavor. We need local flavor, guys that are from here. And so that's what we went after first. So, on our draft board, even though there's no draft, we have a board full of players that we want, and they have 1-star bomb if they're from Louisiana, and 1-star bomb if they're great. And then, of course, we put like a big asterisk next to them if we just got to have them. You know what I mean? So that's what we're doing. And, and it's just what we want. We want to win a championship, but we want to win it with local flavor.
You got 4 FBS schools, college wise, right there. So I can't even imagine some of the other, FCS, Division II, Division III schools in the area, because you guys definitely do produce. Whether it's Tulane, who's having a sensational year, obviously ULM, and Louisiana, as you said, and LSU, obviously. With the Voodoo coming back now, before they were New Orleans, and they were with the original AFL. Are you finding there's a lot of excitement coming back from the old New Orleans Voodoo, from the original AFL? Or have you seen that, or is
So
it kind of?
I did an interview for ESPN Radio in New Orleans, and the guy that was interviewing me, he was excited, but I could tell like his co-host wasn't that fired up about it because it's not a New Orleans thing, And so afterwards, we ended up just talking, me and the guy that hosted the show, and he was like, "Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're gonna get a lot of positive out of the city of New Orleans." You know what I mean? Which is kind of crazy. I mean, man, it's I love New Orleans. In fact, I'm in New Orleans right now. My father had a kidney transplant at Ochsner's in New Orleans, and so I don't understand. I guess I do understand it. I mean, they lost the team, kind of thing, but it's just because there's so much going on in New Orleans right now. They don't need the team. They have a lot going on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was just curious about what the community output from New Orleans was, because obviously this was rebranded as the Louisiana Voodoo in comparison to the Lake Charles Voodoo, so they didn't specify it strictly down, but I didn't remember that it was New Orleans, so I was curious to see if New Orleans was going to be as receptive in that sense, just because you guys are, at least, or the AFL and you guys in general, are at least trying to attempt to make it a statewide thing instead of just more of a specific thing. So
right. And I think one of the main reasons they brought the name back, more than anything, when they brought the team back, was because of what you just said. All the people, I mean, the Voodoo was a very famous name. I mean, and the logo was known all over the United States. I mean, it was one of the top minor league logos, and it was one of the top minor league names. Everybody loved it. And also it's going to really help with the TV contracts. People associate Louisiana with the Voodoo. Even though Lake Charles is a little bit different. I mean, it's funny in Louisiana. It's almost like being in Europe. If you drive an hour in a different direction, you have a different culture. And so we're about 3 hours away from Lake Charles, and from New Orleans to Lake Charles, and maybe a lot of people in Lake Charles are like, why the Voodoo? Because it's more of more Cajun country. It's almost part of Texas. But I mean, I see it. I understand. If you look at what the USFL has done, how much money they make off their TV contracts, and so some of the names they've branded are, they usually play in a hub city, and they're still using the Memphis Showboat. So they're using this name, and it's mostly the name, whenever you run in for an election, you want the name, and so that's one reason they're using the Voodoo name.
That makes perfect sense to me. I always remembered the Voodoo name from the original AFL. So Arena Foot from YouTube says should be the LC Landsharks instead. Definitely, he's a little bit biased there. He also says hashtag never forget the Bio Beast, which I figured you appreciate.
That was awesome, yeah. And listen, the Landsharks were the coolest team that I had coached. So the name they got, the Landsharks, was all because of a Saturday Night Live skit with Chevy Chase, and they would knock on the door, and the Landshark would eat the people if you answer the door. And so it was really cool. I liked being with the Landsharks too. It was a great time.
Absolutely. So you spoke about the fact that you've already kind of started to assemble your coaching staff. So I was curious, are any of your staff from St Edmonds coming with you?
So really, so you're gonna get a kick out of this. I was at a high school All-American game in Arlington, Texas. I coached for the Dream team. It was like a Dream All-American game, and I coached it. And the guy coaching our offensive line was the O-line D-line coach from the Boise Burn, the old AF2, right? And so we got to be friends. And you're only there for about 3 or 4 days. And so we were eating breakfast together one morning. I said, man, Paul, his name's Paul Orr. I said, man, Paul, how would you like to move to Louisiana and make less money and work harder? And so he took the job. So obviously, I must have convinced him somehow. So he moved to St Edmonds, and he's our O-line coach and D-line coach for St Ed's. And Paul, Paul's an old. I like to mess with it. I say we're messing with Sasquatch. Paul looks like Bigfoot. He's about 6'5". He's probably about 400 pounds now. He played his college ball at Nevada. And he just couldn't stand living in Idaho anymore. I mean, because his legs, his knees, and everything. And he likes to get out and ride bikes, and it's just almost impossible in the snow. And so he came over to Louisiana, last year, and he loves it, man. And so when this opportunity came up, I said, well, I got an O-line, D-line coach sitting at home waiting to, we'll probably carpool together back and forth to practice. So I got him coming, and then also whenever I got the job, Chris Hemphill had already been hired as a defensive coordinator. Chris is a big, he played in the arena leagues, played in indoor leagues. Chris, we've gotten to know each other really well lately, and he's fun, man. He's young. He looks like he can still play. I mean, in fact, I told him he's our bodyguard / coach. So it's perfect,
So as far as some of the head coaches that we've seen so far in the AFL that have been announced and whatnot, you have a pretty extensive career, or at least experience-wise, inside the indoor in arena game. And I'm always curious with this question. I asked Coach Wells up there from the Washington Wolfpack this question earlier. When it comes to assessing players or looking for certain types of players, is there a particular skill set? Because the outdoor game and the indoor game are two totally different games. Is there a specific skill set or playing style that you kind of hone in on when it comes to players that you value or that you evaluate to bring in? Because as we all know, it doesn't always translate. Just because you're great outdoor doesn't mean you're going to be great indoor, and vice versa.
100%, man. And I'm going to tell you this. I worked for some great head coaches whenever I first started. I worked for, I played for Buford Jordan whenever, Buford was the best motivator of all time. He would headbutt you, the blood would shoot out of his bald head, whenever he'd headbutt your helmet, whenever you do something good or bad or whatever. And, so I saw that. And then I worked for a guy named Coach Kip Tejada. And Kip Tejada had spent a lot of time in the CFL. And he would always teach us these little things, which was kind of crazy. As an assistant coach, you never know if you're going to be a head coach one day or not. And I'm always observing and learning from my head coach. And so Kip tells me, he was playing for some team in Canada. And that's whenever they had, expanded into the United States, and they had a team in Shreveport. And so he wanted to get closer to home because he was a Magnes boy. And so he ends up asking for a trade. And so they said, you sure you want to trade? And he's like, yeah, man, I want to trade. I want to go back. So he gets there, and the housing is actually inside of Hirsch Arena in some bunk beds. All the players are housed in the arena that they ended up playing indoor football in much years later. And he said it was the worst situation possible. He said the second day he calls his old team. He says, can you trade back for me? And they said, oh, no, you thought the grass was greener. You stuck there. And so, I learned that from Kip, right? And so anyway, it's almost like, I like to say it's like making gumbo. I watched how Kip put together our team. And he had input in everything. Like, he wanted his center. His center has to be able to take on a bull rush. It has to be this. He had like a list of what he wanted out of each position, And so I saw what he put together, and we went 49-12 in 4 years. And so every team after that, I was a head coach in Montgomery, and I guarantee you, I took Kip's formula and started putting it into play, and it started working for us. We won the conference that year. And so it was like, so yes, there is at every position. I know what I'm looking for. Of course, speed. You want speed no matter what. Even in the indoor game, speed kills, man. I seen Mike Lewis. He had 27 kickoff returns for touchdowns in 14 games his rookie year. That's unbelievable, right? But it's all because he's just that fast. So you're always looking for speed, but you're looking for a mindset. Like, you got to be fearless, man. There's no out of bounds. You can't be scared to run. You got to be able to run through a wall if you want to get that ball, or flip over a dashboard, and then just different things. Every position requires a little something different.
100%. Staying on that theme of roster building, I was kind of curious. I mean, how important is it to the team to build a local presence by bringing in Louisiana guys or guys with ties to the state of Louisiana?
Well, that was the first meeting I had. The first thing, and I say my board of advisors, my analysts. It's me, it's Damon Mason, and it's John Fourcade. Fourcade played forever, played for the Saints. John Fourcade played indoor football in every bush league, every league you can possibly imagine in the world. I like to say he's just a tank. He played forever. And so whenever I'm sitting there listening to their advice, we bouncing ideas off of them, and they're giving me ideas back. And the first thing, like I said earlier, Damon said was we got to have local flair. And John went off and then said, there's so many local colleges around our area. If we can't build a team, we just can't build one.
Yeah, and I think that that's important as well because, as I mentioned earlier, the Voodoo were part of the original AFL. This is,
Right.
I believe, the third attempt at the AFL trying to come back. And, I know here everybody at Shady Sports Network, first of all, is rooting for you guys, and we hope that you guys pull through and whatnot. As far as the skepticism is concerned, because having that experience in the indoor game, and I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier with Coach Wells, but you have a little more extensive experience with it. Um, with it being airing on the more of the side of instability, what was it about not just Louisiana Voodoo but the AFL as a whole that made this so attractive for you to want to take and bring in?
Well, I'll tell you this, and this is just how it is. Like, and I told this to, Commissioner Hutt and everything else. I'm a guy that's been here forever. I mean, I've been in South Louisiana my whole life. People trust me, and I think that's what they wanted when they hired me. Well, because I'm a fan. I'm a super fan of the IFL. I'm a fan of every indoor league. The NAL. I keep up with all that. I've been doing it my whole life. So you don't just forget about that. So I'm keeping up with that, and I read the message boards, and man, son, skepticism runs wild, right? I mean, it always does. It takes 1,000 positive things to outweigh one negative thing. So of course it just keeps going, and sometimes it builds on each other, right? So it's like I'm sitting there, and so at the press conference, whenever I got up, and I just said, listen, if you're having any questions out there, if you believe if it's happening or not happening, I wouldn't put my name on it if it wasn't happening. You know what I mean? I'm a South Louisiana boy, born and bred. I'm not leaving this area, and I've built myself from nothing to something. And I mean, and I'm pretty well known in Louisiana, period, because of high school coaching. And and everybody knows me. You know what I mean? Whenever they're gonna say a name, they go, "Oh yeah." They might not like me, but they're gonna know me. So it's like I think that they understand they can trust me. And so as far as the Lake Charles Voodoo go, and Louisiana Voodoo go, everybody just knows that if Shiver's involved in it, it's probably gonna be successful and it's probably gonna take off. Just because hey, I like to get even my high school team. You can go on my Facebook page and check it out. We blow it up, man, social media wise, and we do a great job, attendance and our booster club is tremendous. It's awesome. And so usually when I'm involved, it has something to do with promoting, and I'm promoting my team if I'm coaching it or if I'm in the front office or whatever I am. And so I think that's why they wanted me, man. I mean, I'm gonna give it all I got, and as far as the skeptics go, because of course, as I hire people, hey, do you know what you're getting into? Well, let me tell you this. Everything that they've told me, they've done. You know what I mean? And so I'm a very trusting person. Mr. Hutton told me he wanted this, and I told him, well, I wanted this, and everything I asked for, done. And so it's like, you know what? I'm gonna trust you as long as I can. And so I really trust him. I trust Mr. Gaines, Travell Gaines, whenever he would call me and everything was, working. I trust all these guys. I mean, they do a great job, nothing but professional. And and as far as the naysayers go, are you hating because there's a new league coming back? Because I remember whenever I was in indoor football, everybody hated the AFL because they were so successful, right, for years and years, right? And so is that why you're hating, or are you hating because hey, they're doing some things we never thought was possible this year? I mean, nobody thought that 16 teams coming back was going to be possible. And for an AFL, at the end they had like 4 teams, and now they're back with 16 teams and it's blowing up. Listen, I believe it's possible. I mean, with the group that we have behind it, it's going strong.
Yeah, I mean,
100%.
I'll tell you right now, you don't have any naysayers here as far as we're concerned. We're definitely cheering for it and definitely want you guys to succeed. Go ahead, Sam.
Oh, you're good. 100%, took the words right out of my mouth. We're 100% all in on the AFL. We believe in what we've seen behind the scenes, and I can't speak about a whole lot of what a lot of the stuff that we have seen, but we've been very lucky to get to peel the curtain back a little bit. And there's a reason why we support this league. Let's just put it that way.
Absolutely.
We're firm believers in doing things the right way, and I think the AFL is well on their way there. A couple comments that I wanted to get to. I see you were speaking about John Forcade, former IPFL Mississippi Fire Dogs quarterback / head coach. That is 100% true. And Arena Foot says NGL and UFL has burned us in Baton Rouge for over a decade. Well, it's I'm sure it's very reassuring that you finally have a team you can root for that's not going to burn you heading into the future, and a team that looks to be built with some Louisiana boys. So on that note, I'm curious, have you signed any players yet? We haven't seen any announcements, and if you have, is there anyone we can speak on today?
So we have, but nobody we can speak on yet. We're doing a big social media kickoff next week, and it's going to start with who we're signing and everything else. So, we have gotten some contracts in. Right now the ones we have in are all from UL Lafayette guys. Raging Cajuns, because I'm a Raging Cajun. But we all will be having some more local Magnice guys hopefully in the next couple of days.
On the logo, I count 5 different colors.
Yeah.
And I know that most teams don't go with 5 different colors. So I need to know what are your 3 primary colors going to be down there in New Orleans for you?
So on the uniforms that I held up at the press conference, we were gold and black and white.
Gold, black, and white. Okay.
Now I will tell you this: I did find out that our owner has a real big connection to gold and black. So I'm thinking that's why we're gold and black and white.
Okay, that's fair.
Yes.
All right. I to be honest with you, I didn't see you hold the jersey up. I must have missed that, but
Right.
I just saw the different colors in the headdress, so I was just curious if you were going to be running with. I see a lot of gold and I see some white, so we'll take it.
I think they wanted to have something to do with the old voodoo, and I think that's where
Right.
the purple and the red came in. And I'm not sure about the green. So
Well, it works though. It's one
it
of the
does.
best.
It really works. It works, man.
It's
It
one of
does.
the best logos that we've seen so far to date. So
So
I was just
one
curious.
of our big boosters from my high school team is the Tribe, the casino, and Kashada Casino in Kinder. And so whenever I see that, it always like, hey, look, man, it's got something to do with the Tribe, But no, it has nothing to do with the Tribe, So,
Well,
just to say,
I'm a big uniform guy. That's the reason why I was
yeah.
asking about the uniforms. So
Oh yeah, I love uniforms too, man. And in fact, the high school team I had, we had chrome helmets, white helmets. I said, so that's the first thing I wouldn't mind doing is having a bunch of different color helmets for different home games. So it'd be
hell
great.
yeah, that's
Mhm.
awesome.
100%. I would love if they did some color rush jerseys or something like that. Some alternate jerseys are always fun. That's one of the big things I do like about the NFL.
Me too. I love that.
Arena Foot says casino sponsor ?
Well, that's one thing about Lake Charles. There's a lot of casinos. You know what I mean? So I think they're working on it right now as far as like which one's going to be our main sponsor. I think I don't want to say anything yet, but I believe our housing is going to be at one of the casinos, so it'd be perfect.
Interesting.
Nice.
So I wanted to talk about your arena. Obviously, you'll be playing games at the Lake Charles Event Center in Lake Charles. It seats around 7,500 fans. Do you how do you think this stacks up to other arenas around the league that you've seen so far?
So I'll say this: I feel like there's some top tier arenas. Like I'm sure Philadelphia's got a pretty amazing arena from what I've seen on YouTube. And Orlando has an awesome arena from what I've seen on different streams. I put our arena right up there with them. I mean, we won't have as big. I mean, it's not. We won't sit. There's not 15,000 people that could fit inside of our arena, obviously. But there's the 7,000 seats, and one thing about our arena was it was just given a huge facelift after one of the hurricanes that flooded inside of our arena, and so they have all new seats, all new and so pretty much everything inside is brand new. The one thing that did get messed up was the marquee inside the arena whenever there was flood damage. We had a big marquee that hung down the middle, as nice as anywhere, had jumbotrons on everything, but it got destroyed with the hurricanes. And so it's getting redone now, and will it be ready for the season? I'm not sure how they're going to do it. They might have scoreboards up instead of the marquee. All depends on how that's going. That's a city of Lake Charles thing, and the locker rooms all got destroyed in the hurricane also because it flooded inside the building. And so there are locker rooms on the top that they're talking about, remodeling into locker rooms again for football and things like that. But the nicer locker rooms that were down on the floor level, all that was destroyed. Whenever the floods comes in, you have to tear all of it out and start over. And so, so I think that our arena has the potential to be just as nice as anywhere. I actually did speak to a couple of the TV people, and they were like, man, it's nicer than the smaller market arenas, but it's not as nice as the big market arenas. So I guess we're in the middle market, I guess if we were Major League Baseball, we wouldn't be the Oakland A's, but we're not the Red Sox either. You know what I mean? So we're somewhere in the middle. So I think we would, we will definitely have home games on TV at some, a couple of our games as far as the national TV contract. But I think some of the smaller markets are going to have a harder time. I think they'll have away games on TV. You know what I mean? So it's just, talking to these guys and hearing where they're coming from, that kind of perspective. But our arena's nice. I mean, once you're going to see it, you're going to say, oh, now I get it. I know why they picked the colors, because it has a lot to do with inside the arena also. So.
I mean, 7,500 people, if the atmosphere is correct, I mean, that can be loud. It can be
will be
louder
loud.
than 7,500, you know what I'm saying? So that I mean, yeah, it might only seat 7,500, but you guys can make that sound like, 20,000.
Exactly. And look, that's the whole thing. We had a great home field advantage when the Landsharks were there. I mean, and that was before any of the remodeling. And, people would always say, man, our arena was falling apart back in that day. Lake Charles Arena was falling apart back then. Now it's nice. I mean, it's state of the art. It's got everything you could ask for. It just doesn't have a scoreboard at this point because they got messed up. So, but it's people are going to be surprised. I mean, the people coming from out of town, I know the locals know what we have. They have a lot of concerts, a lot of things happen in that arena. It's a very busy arena. So you'd be pleasantly impressed.
Here's a question you may or may not know the answer to, and this is a good one that I had not thought to ask, but will you have curved end zones?
No, actually, so we've actually looking at two different ways. They do have, now how when a hockey team comes in and they put the the floor in to make it ice, it's made for curved end zones now. Okay, but there is no hockey team at the present moment, and so we have spoke to the companies about bringing in squared end zones. We would like to have squared end zones. The people actually coming in after Thanksgiving to look at it to see if it's possible. Because when you have to drill holes for the dashboard, so you have like these little holes they drill in, and we want to make sure that they could still use the ice. So so we don't want to drill a hole on something that might be part of the apparatus that goes underneath the floor that freezes the ice. So we have to make sure that that's possible. But I would like squared end zones. We would like squared end zones.
Great question. Great question. So finally, my last question for you is, obviously you were one of the coaches that helped give Michael Lewis his start. So I was kind of curious if he's involved at all in the franchise, and if he is, in what capacity.
So actually, it was my father that was helping out whenever Mike did. Whenever Mike got on, I was a player just like Mike. You know what I'm saying? So yes, Mike and I are best friends still. He actually lives in Houston now, and he trains players to get to the next level. He is working with, I forget the name of the league. I want to say it's an outdoor league, and they have a team in Cancun. How Mummy's the team of the team in Cancun. Well, Mike is working with that league as a not a commissioner, but I want to say an ambassador, trying to help them expand out of the country. So Mike has nothing to do with this team at all, besides calling me and messing with me, and trying to give me some advice or messing with me, tell him I'm doing the wrong thing or something. That's just how Mike and I have a good relationship, and we like to joke.
The IFA.
That's what it is. IFA. That's what it is. Yes.
The IFA. Coach, I don't actually have any other questions. I can just say that I know that from us here at Shady Sports, obviously we're rooting for you down there in Louisiana, and hopefully we can put together, you guys can put together a really solid year of, good football and bringing back the community and building the Voodoo back up to the national prominence it once was. I think Krish was a little bit late to the party and missed that you can't really talk about any player signings right now. So
Yeah.
I was not ignoring it, Krish. It's just he already answered that question as far as that was concerned. Normally, I like to close out interviews when I do a one-on-one, and I talked to Sam earlier. He's okay with this as far as it's concerned. Since I don't have anything else, I'd like to give my guests, an opportunity and chance to kind of have the floor, a couple minutes, whatever you want, just to shout out anybody you may want or say whatever it is that you want to say as far as a piece is concerned, and the floor is yours.
Well, I just want to thank, my wife, first off, for letting me take this opportunity, my school, St Edmonds, for letting me have this opportunity, our booster club. I want to, I definitely want to thank, the coaches I have. Coach Corey Diaz is going to be helping us, the special teams coordinator, our film coordinators. Thank John and thank Damon Mason for both, John Forkay and Damon Mason for coming on board as analysts. I mean, if they don't know it, I don't know who would know it. They've been around so long, Chris Hemphill as my defensive coordinator. And I just like to thank Coach Paul Orr for coming on board too, And I don't want to really announce any of our other coaches because they haven't signed their contracts yet, but I want to get all that out and just say, thank you guys for having us on, and and everybody for for giving us an opportunity to show everybody what we can do.
Yeah,
we really appreciate your time, Coach.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking this time to give us a little insight as to what it's going to look like at the AFL side of things, and obviously down there in Louisiana Voodoo. So we appreciate that. For anybody that's listening, hit that subscribe, on the channel here as well. While you're at it, go like Louisiana Voodoo on all social media as well as the AFL. Commissioner Hutton as well for giving us this opportunity and chance to spread the word about the AFL as well. And you stick around till next weekend. I believe it's EJ Burt from Orlando and Chris Siegfried from West Texas we will have on as well as we continue our AFL coaching carousel here at Shady Sports. Guys, have a good one.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Thanks
a
for having me.
game changer.